10 mathematics term 1 test. Okay, so this paper is from Johannesburg West District, the best district so far. Okay, so looking at the instructions, okay, we're gonna have 50 marks, 1 hour, okay. It has only 3 questions then. Then you have to answer in answer book. We need the numbering system, calculators. Answers only will not necessarily guarantee full marks, and then a calculator may be used. We need to write legibly and neatly, okay. And then 2 decimal places, okay. This one is even in capital letters, okay. Okay, so when we move on to question number 1. Now, question number 1 is telling us to round off, okay. We are rounding off 943,73095 to 3 decimal places. So 3 decimal places simply tells us to look at the 3 numbers after the comma. So we're gonna look at the 7, the 3, and the 0. Then immediately after the 3rd decimal place, we need to check what number comes after. It's a 9. So this 9 is gonna affect the 0 by simply adding a 1. Remember, for a 1 to be added, the digits that follow must be between 5 to 9, okay? These ones will add a value of 1. Digits between 0 to 4, they do not affect the number within the rounding position. So our answer here is going to be approximately 943,731. All right, something like that. So 3 decimal places, there we go. Okay, then 1.2, telling us if we're given that K is equivalent to square root of 2A over, okay, 3x squared. And then they're telling us that if A is 8 and X is a third, can we determine the value of K? Now remember, K is being represented by this entire thing on the right-hand side of the equal signs, okay? So what we need to do is just substitute for A for 8, and then for X, we replace it with 1 over 3. So that's gonna be the square root of 2 multiplied by 8 over 3 into 1 over 3 squared. This step is vital because it shows us that you're doing the substitution, okay? And then that's gonna be 16 over a third squared is gonna be 1 over 9. And then 3 times 1 over 9 gives us 1 over 3. So this over that, 1 over 3. And then you play around with this. 16 over third must give us something like a 48. So you're gonna be looking at the square root of 48. And then from there, feel free to, punch this in the calculator and get the answer, because there is no restriction to this question. They never said whether we must not use a calculator or whether we should. So it is. Okay, so if you just punch this in the calculator, you should get an answer of round about 4√3. So we prefer to have it just in sad form, okay? And as much as the question didn't tell us which format. So this one, or if you want to leave it at the decimal, then it should be 6,93, something like that. Okay, or 6,93. All right, then 1.2.2. They want us to state whether K is rational or irrational. Now, the number to be irrational, remember it can be expressed as a fraction. And the fact that we're seeing a root sign here, and whatever is under the root sign is a 3, I mean, we cannot find the square root of a 3. We're gonna get more numbers or more answers after the comma. So in that case, our answer here is going to be irrational. Okay, irrational because we cannot write this as a common fraction. Alternatively, if you look at, let's say, the decimal answer that you get, you should be getting 6,92823 plus. There is no connectivity in terms of, let's say, the pattern of the numbers. So it's not recurring. So that is irrational. And then 1.3, they want us to convert 0,396. So these 3 numbers are recurring to a common fraction. Okay, so I'm gonna write it this side since I have space this side. So 0, so I will say that let y be equal to 0.396 recurring. Let's check the number. 0.396, that's correct. Okay, let y be equivalent to that. That's going to be 1 mark for us. Now. Then since the three numbers that we have are recurring, which means we're going to multiply both sides by 1,000. Okay, so that the comma can cover all the numbers that are recurring. So this is going to be 1,000 y is equivalent to, this is going to be 396, 396, and so on. Okay, why am I adding this 396 again? Because remember, 396 is the same as 0.396, 396, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I just need to indicate this. Since I have three numbers after the comma, I'll maintain that. So if this was our first equation, this is our second equation, we just need to get equation 2, okay, minus equation number 1. So 1,000 minus y, that's going to give us, what answer do we get? 999, It has to be 999y is equivalent to, when you get this, you subtract, we're going to get 396, because this cancels this out. Okay, then let's divide both sides by 999. So y becomes 396 over 999. So the last step that we need to do is basically simplify this fraction, okay? Give it in its simplest form. So all you do is just punch this in the calculator and write the answer as a common fraction and not necessarily as a decimal. So this is gonna be 44 over 111. Okay, so they are dividing through by 9. So over 9 and then 9, you should get something like that. So that is how we should end up with that answer. Okay, so 4 marks, not so bad. Not so bad at all. Okay, so that was question 1 for 8 marks. Then we need to go to question number 2. Question number 2, we are talking about expanding. Okay, so whenever we are expanding, we just have to open the brackets uniquely, okay? So for me to do this perfectly well, I think I should write it this side for 2.1. 2.1. Okay, so the question is telling us if we have P minus 2 over Q, P minus 2 over Q, open brackets, we have P squared plus, okay, 2P over Q, and then plus, we have 4 over Q squared, 4 over Q squared. Okay, so we have 2 ways of doing this, yeah? And the first one is whereby you just get this, multiply, and then all of that, okay? And then this one must also multiply with that using the distributive property, because we know that whatever is outside of the bracket must affect everything within the other bracket, okay? Alternatively, someone might want to split this up and say, okay, I have my P into this entire bracket, which is going to be P squared 2P over Q plus 4 over Q squared. Then minus the 2 over Q into the same bracket, P squared plus 2P over Q plus 4 over Q squared. Okay, so let's open this up. And as much as, how many marks is this? It's a 3-mark question. Okay, let me not spoil the game. Let's start. So this and that is going to be P cubed. And then this and that is going to give us 2P squared over Q plus, that's going to be 4P over Q squared. We open this up, it's going to be negative 2P squared over Q. This and that is going to be minus 4P over Q squared. And then this negative 2 multiplied by that, we're going to get negative 8 over Q cubed. Okay, so then the next step is just for us to identify any like terms, okay? So I'm seeing the 2P squared positive, the 2P squared negative. No? Same applies with this. This is a positive, this is a negative, they cancel out. So I'm just left with a P cubed minus 8 over Q cubed. So this becomes our answer. So what I wanted to say before the statement of I don't want to spoil the game is if you can identify that this is basically difference of 2 cubes, because this minus that, then we have a p squared plus the product of this, and then we have this squared. Automatically becomes a difference of 2 cubes. So we're saying p cubed minus 8 over p cubed. Okay, for 3 marks, that's how you go about it. Then 2.2, they want us to simplify this. Okay, this paper is coming in dynamite and small packages. It's a dynamite paper. Okay, so with this sort of exponents, let's deal with the coefficients separate, and then we look at all the other numbers as well. Okay, so we have 3 over 12. That's going to be the same as a quarter, because by 3 is a 1, by 3 is a 4. Then looking at the x's, okay, since we are dividing, then we have to subtract the exponents. But we're seeing the bigger exponent is down, which means our x is going to be down, okay? So that's going to be 6 minus 2, which is a 4. So I'll have x to the 4 at the bottom. Same applies with the y. I'm seeing the bigger y down, so which means even the y has to be a denominator. So 3 minus 3, I'm going to get y6. Okay, so that becomes our answer. So it's going to be 1 over 4x to the 4, and then y to the 6. Alternatively, somebody could put this on top, so that's going to be 1 over 4. And then if you have 2 minus 6, you're going to get x to the negative 4. And then negative 3 minus 3, you're going to have y to the negative 6. But in most cases, we want answers to have positive exponents in the 10, okay? So you just have to move this, whatever was a numerator, it must become a denominator. All right, then 2.2.2, I'll jot it this side. We have a 3xy. Okay, this is 2.2.2. We're saying 3xy divided by x cubed plus y cubed. X cubed plus y cubed, and then plus 1 over x plus y. Okay, so this is more like an algebraic fraction. And when you're dealing with algebraic fractions in grade 10, the main point is that we want to test you on how you simplify your fractions, especially if you have addition, subtraction, division, multiplication. And then the other technique that we want to test on is factorization. Okay, so since we have an addition, all we're gonna do is find the LCD, but I'm not gonna do that for the LCD. Let me just do this very fast. So I'm gonna get this multiplied by this, and then this multiplied by the 1 over this entire thing. So that's gonna be 3xy into x plus y, plus, that's gonna be x cubed plus y cubed over, we have x cubed plus y cubed into x plus y, just the multiplication. How many marks? It's 4 marks, no? Okay. Then from there, all I'll need to do is expand or factorize this. Okay, the sum of 2 cubes. So I'll keep this. So I'll have 3xy into x plus y plus. Factorizing this, we say it will be x plus y into x squared, then minus this and that is going to be xy, and then plus we have y squared. We're dividing this by x cubed plus y cubed into x plus y. Then what we observe will be common. From the top, x plus y is common. So you're going to have x plus y out into 3xy, okay, plus this entire bracket. That's x squared minus xy plus a y squared. We're dividing this by x cubed plus y cubed into x plus y. So meaning that the x plus y and the x plus y should cancel out. I'm taking the longest approach just to make sure we get to the same answer. Okay, so when I simplify what is on top here, I'll have something like x squared plus this and this. It's going to give us 2xy and then plus y squared. We're dividing it by x cubed plus y cubed. Okay, so when I look at this, when I look at this, when I look at that, going back the root of factorization, it could be the same as x plus y squared. Okay, if you want to factorize this, please go ahead. You're going to have x plus y again, and then x squared plus xy plus y squared. So that 1xy cancels out 1xy. Then we're going to have x plus y over x squared plus xy plus y squared. So this should be our final answer for the 4 marks. Okay, now I know some people might be tempted to cancel this x and maybe one of the x's, and then please don't do that. You cannot cancel things out like that. So that becomes our final answer for 2.2.2. Then 2.3, they're telling us to factorize. Guys, simplifying expressions and factorizing are two different things. Okay. With simplifying, yes, you can apply the knowledge of factorization. With factorization, it's just straightforward. Just remember your methods of factorization. So in this case, we have two terms, okay, x squared and a 25. We can automatically sense that this is a difference of two squares. So with the difference of two squares, we only need two brackets. Okay, square root of x squared is x. Square root of 25 is a 5. And then x and 5. And then just put the signs, x plus and then a minus. The order does not matter. Okay, so that's our answer. And then 2.3.2, we have 6bx minus 15cx plus 10cy minus 4by. So we have 4 terms. And in cases where we have 4 terms, it's paramount that we carry out what we call the grouping. So let me just try to group like this and see if it's going to give me something. So with the grouping, the target must be to get the same bracket at some point, okay? So after grouping, you need to factor out what is common. So from this bracket, I can see there's x, okay? But then with the 6 and the 15, there is also common. So I'll take out 3x. Then I'll be left with a 2b, okay? Minus 15 divided by 3 is gonna be 5c. Then plus, when I look at this, what is common is gonna be, can have a 2 and a 2 there, but we also have a y. But now what I'm noticing is that if I take out, let's say, a 2y, I'll be left with a 5c minus a 2b, which is kind of different from my first bracket when it comes to the sign orientation. So instead of me having a plus here, then I'll apply that method of taking out the negative sign. So take out the negative sign, and then I'll have the 2b minus a 5c, so that I have just the same brackets. Good. Then from there, I'll have a 2b minus 5c, which is common. When I remove this bracket, I'll have a 3x. I remove this, I'll have a minus 2y. Then this becomes our final answer. All right, so probably there has to be a mark for taking out the negative sign. And then the other 2 marks for this, and then that. Most probably, okay. So that is question number 2. Those are 20 marks down. So, right, so is it 20 marks? Yeah, it should be 20, because we looked at the 8 and then we looked at the 12. Okay, I don't know, let's go. Question number 3, where we have the equations. But the paper said we have 3 questions, and then I'm seeing 4. Anyway, this one, let's move on. Okay, 3.1. They want us to solve for x. Now, what I can notice is that before I even solve any equation, I need to know what type of equation is it. then I'll apply the relevant approach. So in this case, I'm seeing an exponent, so which means I'm going to use exponential knowledge. So for exponential knowledge to apply, I need to get rid of this so that this 5 to the x is left alone. So I'll divide both sides by 2. Okay, so I'll have 5 to the x is equal to 25. And then I'll change this 25 to a base of 5. So 5 to the x is equal to 5 squared. And then I'll drop the bases. Therefore, our x becomes a 2. Perfect. And then we move on to 3.1.2. All right, so before we attempt this, please, if it's your first time visiting this channel, please feel free to subscribe, to like, to comment, and follow us on all the other platforms, okay? On top of that, we have also camps that are lined up that you can probably join, okay? So we have x minus 3 is equal to 21 minus 5x. So for us to answer this is a linear equation, okay? With the linear, we need to move the x to one side. So I'm going to take this negative 5 to that side. Then I'm going to move this negative 3 to this side. So I'll have x plus 5x should give me 21 plus 3. So this is going to be 6x is 24. Then divide both sides by 6, which means x is a 4. Okay, so that is kind of straightforward. Then 3.1.3, we have x cubed. Let me just put it aside. Okay, this is 3.3. It's x cubed. Okay. Then we have minus 3x squared. Minus 3x squared. And then now we have a plus 2x is equal to 0. Now, this is more like a quadratic, but it's not a quadratic. It's actually a trinomial. With a trinomial, the highest degree is a 3. So which means we expect 3 answers. Remember, the degree helps us with determining how many answers we need. So step number 1, what's common here? It's going to be x. Please avoid dividing through by x. That will be killing a solution. So factorize out, okay? So x, we have x squared minus 3x plus 2 is equal to 0. So from our dot product, we know that x must be a 0, or this entire bracket, x squared minus 3x plus 2 is a 0. Okay, so we already have one answer, x is a 0. Then we just need to factorize this out. Okay, so that's going to be x and x. For me to get this, I'll have a minus 2 and a minus 1. Okay, my product is a 2, my sum is negative 3. So which means that this bracket, x minus 2 should be a 0, or x minus 1 is a 0, which means x is a 2, or x is a 1. So answer 1, answer 2, and then answer number 3. So those are the 3 answers that we need. Wow, this question. Okay, 3.2. Solve for x and represent your answer on a number line if x is an element of real numbers. Okay, they never said integers, they said real numbers. Okay, so we have 2 open brackets. This is 3.1. This is 3.2. Yeah. So we're saying 3.2. The question says if we have 2 into 2x minus 3, 2x minus 3, then we have minus 11. The inequality is less than 7x plus 1. 7x plus 1. So like we said under the inequalities that we solved with just the same way we solve a linear equation. The only difference is just this symbol. Keep it within all the steps. So let's open up this as we move the 7x this side. Will it make sense? Now let's first open it. So you're going to have 4x minus, that's going to be a 6 minus 11 is less 7x plus 1. We know that this is going to give us negative 17. We're going to move it that side. So we have 4x minus 7x is less than 1, is positive 1. So the minus 17 moves there, it becomes a plus 17. So negative 3x is less 18, then let's divide through by negative 3. And the moment you divide through by negative 3, the inequality symbol changes to greater. Okay, so x must be greater than negative 6. So with a number line, something like that, have this as your -6, have this dot open, and then greater should be to the right. Okay, so do not shade the dot because there is no equal sign. If there was an equal sign, then probably the dot should be shaded. So that is how we get those marks, 3 marks. Wow. 3.3, given that V, this represents the literal equations, okay? So 3.3, we're being told that V is equal to 4/3 pi radius cubed. Is that correct? 4/3 pi r cubed. They want us to express r in terms of V. In other words, they want us to make r the subject. Okay, step number one. Step number one, you can get rid of this. So I will make that over 1, just to make life easy for me. Let's let's multiply both sides by 3. So you have a 3V is equal to 4 pi radius cubed. Divide both sides by 4 pi. So over 4 pi, over 4 pi. So this cancels that. Then your r cubed is equal to 3V over 4 pi. And then for us to get rid of this 3, you must find the cube root on either sides. Okay, so the cube root kills out the 3, which means that our r is just the cube root of 3V over 4 pi. Then that's our answer. Thank you very much. Okay, that is for 2 marks. Not so bad. Then 3.5, they want us to solve simultaneously for x and y. Now, simultaneous equations, remember, we have 2 unknowns that will possess more or less the same value. Okay, so the x here should be the same as the x that's here. So the only trick here that I'm seeing is that the numbers have been, played around, like shuffled. It's our duty to rearrange this entire thing. Remember, there are 2 methods even. So we have substitution and we also have elimination. I prefer to use the elimination method for grade 10s. So let's see, but we can go through both of them and we see that we get the same answers. So with the first one, we have x minus y is equal to 1. I'm going to rewrite this second equation also starting with the x. So the x is a -2, so it's a -2x. The y is a positive, okay, is equivalent to 3. Just the same way, same format. So if this is equation 1, equation 2, that's how I baptize them. And then let's say I want to get rid of y, since I'm seeing the coefficients are the same. The only difference is the signs. So we're going to say equation number 2 plus equation number 1. Okay, when I plus that, this is going to give us -x, because the 1 plus a -2 gives us -1. Okay, then this dies out to be a 0, and then 1 plus 3 gives us a 4. Divide through by a -1. Okay, this becomes a positive, so which means x is -4. Then get this -4 and replace it in equation 1. So tell us that -4 minus y should give us a 1. Then we can transpose, move this for that side, which means -y is equal to 5, which means y is -5. Okay, that is how we would have gone about that. That is if you have to use elimination. Now, if you apply, let's say, substitution, you go to first equation, make x the subject. So x is going to be y plus a 1. Call this equation star or equation 3. Doesn't matter. This is our equation 2. Then substitute equation 3 into equation number 2. So where there is x, I'll put a y plus 1. Okay, so 3 is equal to y minus 2 into y plus 1. We open this up, y minus 2y minus 2. Let's move this to that side. 5 is equivalent to -y. Divide through by -1, y is a -5. Then to get the x, just get this and then punch it into equation 3. So our x is going to be -5 plus 1, which gives us -4. So for 5 marks, these people, they are too generous. Okay, thank you very much. We move on. Question number 4, which is the last question, and that is trigonometry. Okay. So with this trigonometry, there's something that we need to pay attention to. 4.1, determined by means of a calculator. In other words, our answer now needs to be in this. They want the value of cosec of this whole thing. Okay. So this whole thing is not a big deal. The big deal is the cosec. So we know that cosec is just the reciprocal ratio of sine. Okay. So if we have, let's say, 1 over sine of an angle, this must give us the cosec of that angle. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is that instead of us stressing with all of this, or what we can simply do is by just getting this entire thing and say it's the same as 1 over the sine of, let's say, 3y minus 2q over 4p, something like that. Then we just punch this in our calculator with our numbers, yeah? And then you get the answer. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'll say it's 1 over, this is the sine of y is 118. So that's going to be 3 into 118 minus 2q, which is 2 into 38. Just use brackets, please, now. Over, this is 4p, which is 4 times 22. Please, for as long as you've showed us the substitution, it's okay. If you're too generous, you want to simplify that, there is no problem, okay? We still love you. So that's going to be 3. Let's do this. Saying 3 times 118 minus 2 times 38, okay, over 4 times 22. That gives me 139 over 44. So 1 over the sine of 139 over 44. What do I get? Let's see. Saying 1 over the sine of 139 over 44. Okay, I'm getting a decent answer, which is 18,145, which is the same as 15, because they told us answers should be just 2 decimal places. So 18,15 becomes our solution. Okay, so that is how we would have gone about this. Then 4.2. Okay, 4.2. They're telling us in the diagram below, ABC is a right angle triangle with B being a 90. That's perfect. Complete the statements 4.1, 4.2, 4.3 using the above diagram. Are they saying 4.1, 4.2? Okay, that's fine. It's okay, so this thing. I'm not gonna complain. Okay, so it should be sine of C. So we know from our classes, no? From our classes, I don't know which terminologies you guys are using, but this is what I prefer. You know the meaning of everything. So we're saying the sine of C must be the opposite over the hypotenuse. So when you look at C as an angle, this side will be the opposite. This is the adjacent. The hypotenuse stays the same. So I'll say 4.2.1. Sine of C is the opposite over the hypotenuse. So it's AB over AC. That's the one mark that they want. And then which ratio combines, okay, before even we talk of the ratio, they gave us the angle, okay? They are focusing angle A. So if the focus is on angle A, then the sides will also switch or change. This becomes the opposite, this becomes the adjacent when you're talking about A. Now with the A, which side gives us AB over BC? AB over BC. So the ratio that talks about adjacent over the opposite, okay? Opposite over adjacent is the tan, but now this switched around. So this is going to be the cot. Okay, just tell us cot of A will be given as the AB over the BC. All right. Then next, they want us to give the cos of 90 minus A. Now, when they give you the cos of 90 minus A, if this angle of ours is A, okay, then this angle becomes the 90 minus A. this one. Because if we add the 2, we get a 90. We add another 90, we have 180 angles in a triangle. So if they want the cos of this angle here, it's the adjacent, because now this will be our adjacent for this angle. This will be the opposite. So it's going to be BC divided by the hypotenuse, which is AC. So probably 1 mark for each within the correct positions. All right, then 4.2.4, if it is further given, okay, it's further given that our AB is X. Let me just use a different color. So AB is X, AC is a 3,4, and then C is a 36. Let me remove this and then just punch a 36 there. Okay, determine the value of X, correct to 1 decimal place. Okay, so what we know is for us to get that X, looking at the 36, okay, as our angle of interest, this is the hypotenuse. This is the opposite, okay? So which ratio combines opposite and hypotenuse is the sine. So we're going to say that the sine of 36 is equal to the opposite over the 3,4. We can make this over 1, cross multiply, which means our X is 3,4 sine of 36. Remember, your calculator needs to be in degrees, okay, for us to get the same answers. Okay, so 3,4 sine of 36 is giving me a very unique answer, which is 1,998. Okay, and if I'm rounding this off to 2 decimals, it's gonna be 2,00. Okay, that is the length of X. Okay, this is 2. Then 4.2.5, hence or otherwise determine the length of BC. They want us to get BC, this one. So either way, when they say hence, which means from this answer that we got, we can proceed and use the trig ratios again. And in this case, we can use the tan, or we can even use the cos, okay? Alternatively, you can use your theorem of Pythagoras. There's no harm in that, okay? Oops, sorry. They say they want 1 decimal place now. Why am I giving 2 decimal places? So this is supposed to be 2,0. Okay. So length of BC, let me use the Pythagoras, whereby r squared is x squared plus y squared. Yeah? This is 4.2.5. Our r is a 3,4 squared. Our x is a 2. We're looking for the, why am I saying the x is a 2? We're looking for the x. And then our y before, oh Lord, I'm going to confuse people now by saying x and that and that. Okay, let's use 2 squared there so that we look for the missing side. Okay, so 3,4 squared is giving us 11,56 now. Minus 4 should give us a y squared. Then we know that it's going to be a 7,56 and the square root should give us the length of BC. So square root of 7,56, that's going to be 2, do they need us? Okay, they never told us the number of decimals, so it should be up to us. So that's going to be 2,75 units. Okay, so that's how we do it using the Pythagoras. Alternatively, we said we can also use what? The cos, and say that the cos of 36 is equal to BC over the 3,4. Then cross multiply, so that your BC is 3,4, the cos of 36. Let's see if we still get the same answer. A is 3,4, okay, the cos of 36. That gives us 2,75, exactly 2,75 units. Okay, so that is how we would have gone about this paper. I feel like the paper was fair enough. Ne? Please, let's meet again when we meet again. Thank you very much. And I wish you all the best, guys. Bye-bye. Hello, welcome to yet another episode where we shall be looking at the proposed memorandum of the grade 10 mathematics term 1 test. Okay, so this paper is from Johannesburg West District, the best district so far. Okay, so looking at the instructions, okay, we're gonna have 50 marks 1 hour, okay. It has only 3 questions then. Then you have to answer in answer book. We need the numbering system, calculators. Answers only will not necessarily guarantee full marks, and then a calculator may be used. We need to write legibly and neatly, okay. And then 2 decimal places, okay. This one is even in capital letters, okay. Okay, so when we move on to question number 1. Now, question number 1 is telling us to round off, okay. We are rounding off 943,73095 to 3 decimal places. So 3 decimal places simply tells us to look at the 3 numbers after the comma. So we're going to look at the 7, the 3, and the 0. Then immediately after the 3rd decimal place, we need to check what number comes after. It's a 9. So this 9 is going to affect the 0 by simply adding a 1. Remember, for a 1 to be added, the digits that follow must be between 5 to 9. Okay, these ones will add a value of 1. Digits between 0 to 4, they do not affect the number within the rounding position. So our answer here is going to be approximately 943,731. All right, something like that. So 3 decimal places. There we go. Okay, then now 1.2, telling us if we're given that k is equivalent to square root of 2a over, okay, 3x squared. And then they're telling us that if a is 8,